This session's called How to Sell at Higher Margins Than Your Competitors. A title that guaranteed to draw an audience, if ever there was one. But quite seriously, I'm going to talk about tools and techniques that you can use to make yourself distinctive, and distinctive in ways that people will think about you in terms of possibly being a business that charges slightly higher prices and should charge slightly higher prices, because everybody knows you get what you pay for. Yeah, pure and simple. You get what you pay for. So let's get going. When was the last time you worried about being too cheap? Yeah, it doesn't happen, does it? It doesn't happen. We worry all the time about costing too much. Yeah, we're always worried about the fact that we might be too expensive. But do we worry about being too cheap? Very, very rarely. Now, could that have an effect on your pricing overall if that's all you ever think about? Could it be generally encouraging you to keep those prices as low as you can possibly get away with? I think it probably could. Because as a business, you've got to make a decent profit. That's what you're in business for. You know, you've got to pay your bills, you've got to pay yourself and your staff, you've got to pay your pension of your staff now as well with auto-enrollment. Yes, and you need to produce enough money at the end of the day to invest in your business. Be that a new website, be that a website upgrade, be that some new material, collateral, new letterhead, paint the front of the shop, new window display. Whatever it is, your profit from every single item you sell needs to cover all of those things off. And yet, on the other hand, you're constantly trying to sell it at the lowest price that you can reasonably get away with. Well, today's all about trying to help you move a little bit beyond that and sell at better margins. How am I going to do it with you? I'm going to talk about four particular things. The first area is that business is not about volume, business is about margin. I've got some good examples I'm going to run through with some facts and data to show you the effect of discounting versus price rises and what that has, the effect that has in terms of volume demands on your business, sales demands on your business. I'm going to talk about the language of price and the simple fact that price is more than just a number. And I said something about that earlier. People know that they get what they pay for. And things that cost more are generally better than things that are cheaper. So price has to be something that does more than just state a number. It sends a message around quality and value as well. And I'll talk about some sales tools, some assistance around handling price questions with confidence and tact. Because if you are a business that's going to charge good prices, sensible prices, fair prices, but prices that some people might consider higher than need to be, then you're going to need to handle that well. So I'm going to give you some insight into how to do that. And then at the end, there's a bit of a showstopper. There's a mindset that I'm afraid if any of you have in the room, and I hope you don't, but if any of you have in the room, you won't be able to do any of this because you're simply not in the right place. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover off. So the law of demand states that, yeah, if you sell low, bingo, you'll make it up in more volume. Yeah, if you discount, you get more sales. We covered that off somewhat this morning in the presentation I gave with an update on the RPC. Okay, well, as an economic principle, it's certainly true. Now, no one's denying that it exists. But let's look at it in the context of a business, a real business. Let's see what happens when you take and look at the effects of discounting and price rises. Here's some data from a real business in the UK, a customer that I've worked with in the past. There's their turnover, cost of sales, you can see all the numbers for yourself. It's a business that's doing reasonably well and it's making a reasonable operating profit after all its costs are taken into account. Yeah, not doing bad there. So what about this business to do with discounting? What would be the effect of doing it? Okay, let's apply just a 10% discount. It's not an awful lot off the price, is it? Let's face it, £10 off of every £100 sold. Okay, you'd rather have the £10, I'm sure, we all would, but it's not exactly going to kill you, is it? Or is it? So if you take £10 off the sales, your cost of sales remains the same because we're still doing the same amount of work and selling the same number of products. You can see that our gross profit drops quite significantly. Our overheads remain the same. Yeah, we're still employing the same number of people. We're still running around doing the same amount of work, which is where the distribution line comes from. We're still picking up the same amount of parts and all of that good stuff. So look what's happened to our operating profit. For a 10% discount, I've lost 19,000 quid's worth of profit. Well, of course I would. But I'm going to make it up in volume, aren't I? Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's see. And the place to start is to say, how much more volume would I need to sell in order to get back to where I was before I made the discount? Seems reasonable, doesn't it? How much more do I need to sell how much more will I need to sell so that making this discount is a good idea? So, sales to recover the discount. So, our operating profit line goes back to 24 grand because that's where we want to end up. We know our gross profit percent is going to be at 35% because we're still going to be selling at the same price to cost ratio. I'm going to assume that our distribution, admin and other costs remain the same, even though we're going to probably be doing more work and these costs may actually increase, so pushing up our need to sell even more. But we'll play the game. No, we can do it within our current overheads. Well, if you know these two numbers, you can work out your gross profit percent. And if you know your gross profit percent, you can work backwards and work out what your turnover needs to be. Cost of sales, 32%. Does anyone in this room believe that a 10% discount is going to get a third more sales? It ain't going to happen, is it? It just isn't going to happen. Business is a game of margin. Discounting on prices doesn't work. You have to sell at the maximum price you reasonably can and nothing less, because you'll be running around like a busy fool. Yeah, just 10% difference on price has caused you the need to sell a third more to just earn as much money as you would have done if you'd sold at a sensible price in the first place. Because this is a viable business, remember? This is a viable business. This is a business that exists in the UK and is operating quite happily right now. Point made. Let's look at it the other way. Let's say I did the unthinkable thing and I put my prices up. Let's say I did it 10%. You can work out the numbers. 10% on 191 is 210. Well, it's the same cost of sales because we've just charged more. So it's the same volume that's running through. Oh, look what's happened to our profit, our gross profit. That's nice, isn't it? Now, we're still doing the same amount of work, so our overheads are just the same as they used to be, 55,000. Look at our profit line. It's gone up 80% for a 10% rise in prices. Practically nothing has resulted in a huge difference in how profitable our business is. Yeah, but everyone knows if you put your prices up, business runs away. Somebody agrees. All right. Let's do the same kind of sum as we did before. Okay, how much business would I need to lose before doing this was a bad idea? In other words, how much business, what would be my turnover in order to hit £24,000? Okay, so we'll start at the bottom, 24,000. We know our gross profit percent is going to be at that level because we're selling at the higher price. Remember, what's changing now is the volume, not the price. I'm going to assume our overheads are going to be the same. Again, we don't know how they'll change, so let's just assume they're the same. We can work out gross profit, our new sales, and therefore how much business we can afford to lose before this becomes a bad idea. Same question. Do you believe that a 10% price rise is going to result in 2 in every 10 of your customers saying, no thank you, I'm walking away? It's not going to happen, is it? 2 in every 10 of your customers will probably say, oh, you put your prices up. Doesn't mean they're not going to buy, does it? It just means they've noticed. So that's all about the fact. Very simply, you can't recoup losses from discounting. If you're choosing to be clever and undercut the competitor on the other side of town by selling just a bit lower than they are, can you see the burden that you're placing on your business unnecessarily? Competition isn't about price, it's about being better. And that's all about service. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Underpricing is inexcusable. Let's say in ignorance with a small I, you just don't know that you're actually selling at lower prices than you need to because you're constantly worried about the fact that you're expensive. Well, the example I gave, effectively applying a discount on your prices, is the same thing. You're creating a huge burden on yourselves to recoup what you could easily earn by just selling at the proper price. So, many of your competitors, and this is a fact, Many of your competitors are struggling and they're slowly going broke. Don't join them. Yeah? Go back, do some sensible price checking. That doesn't mean looking on Amazon, that means looking at other businesses that are just like you and see what they are charging for the same products and services. And then think about where your price should sit relative to them. Yeah? Look for opportunities to increase prices. I'm not suggesting you double them, anything stupid like that. But as this maths has shown you, 10%, 5% will recoup your business an awful lot of profit. So I hope that's made clear that business is about margin. Let's talk about the language of price. In every buying decision, a buyer asks the same question. Is it worth it? Yeah? This mouse I'm going to buy, this clicker I'm going to buy, is it worth what you're asking me to pay? And what people are doing is, a lot of consultants have looked at this and it's called value equivalence. And they're answering in their own mind a question that says, is the perceived benefit versus the perceived price, is there a payoff? Is it worth it? And the work that's been done shows a really close correlation, a straight line correlation between those two things. You can do it for individual products and services, I should say. You can do it for whole companies, because if you do it for their whole companies, are effectively collections of products and services. If you were to do it for whole companies, that's called market positioning, slightly different thing. Now, for those of you that were along this morning, and there were a few faces along this morning, we spoke about the retail price comparison. And we spoke about your prices in comparison to how you fared with PC World. Yeah? And for those along this morning, you'll recall that the basket, compared to PC World, was less. So, your PC fixed, imaginary company. Basket price, less than PC World. Let me ask you a simple question. Are you better businesses? Do you offer better services? Do you offer better quality of service, better customer service to your customers than PC World? Emphatically yes. So why therefore, it doesn't work, but anyway. So why therefore are you not more expensive? Value equivalence would say, if you're better, you should cost more. Now we could have a very, very long discussion around this point, but you need to very seriously take the point that I'm making. You're competing on the wrong basis. When I said this morning, whichever way you look at this, you might consider actually with your having a lower basket price not being a desirable thing. This is what I was getting at. Yeah? You should at least be the same cost, if not slightly more, because you offer better customer service. People will expect you to cost more. Pure and simple. Price is not the angle to compete on. If you're struggling to get business, it's not because you're too expensive. It's because you're not marketing your business. Okay, so we've spoken about this issue to do with price being more than a number. Let's talk about confidence and tact. That point I was making about PC World is at the very heart of all this. Okay, price positioning. You have to price yourself more expensive than those that are worse than you, and less expensive than those that are better. Which is easier said than done, because contained in those words, worse and better, is a very difficult value judgment. But it's a value judgment you need to make, because your customers are making it about you every single time they use you. Let's see what we get next. Oh, good. We get the right slide. That's always an added bonus, isn't it? Do you deserve your prices? Interesting point. We're going to be selling possibly at prices slightly higher than we're used to. How can I justify that other than I fancy putting my prices up? Well, price is a sum of two things. Price is all your costs, so not just the product, not just what it takes to deliver the service, but it's all of the value add, some of the intangible stuff that goes around that. Value add. This is a slide from a presentation I gave at the Unopen Day in 2013, of all things. Yeah, you recall, right? You guys add tons of value add. Yeah? The knowledge, competence and professionalism. The unbiased pre-sales advice that you would give people if only they asked. The after-sales support, the customer care, the fact that you're an independent business, local business. Yeah? Loads and loads and loads of value if only people realised it. And this is majorly the issue. It's all about communicating these things, making them plain to customers so that they appreciate the value add that you give them, that they recognize it and see it. A lot of businesses assume these things, yeah? You have to tell them. How can you tell them? Well, if you came along this morning, you'll have seen this. This is a customer charter. It's something that sets out the standards of service that you are prepared to be measured by. Yeah, you're making a declaration. This is who we are. This is how we want to be measured. And if we fall short, we take all complaints very seriously. A business that says these sorts of things about itself, like it will only give fair prices, that it'll only sell what's right for me, that it'll keep me fully informed of work and contact me if we hit problems, that sounds like a business that really cares about me. That sounds like a business that's better. That sounds like a business that might cost more to use. Okay? Be under no illusion when people come and use businesses that cost more, that are more expensive, they're not doing it because they're stupid. They're doing it because they made a deliberate choice. They know that they get what they pay for, and they're choosing to pay more because they want better service. Yeah? Don't be frightened of it. You all give such huge value as small businesses, you just have to make it more plain. This is an example of a way in which you can do that. Another way that you can do that is using things like check sheets. Again, if you were here this morning, I used that as an example for how to just simply differentiate yourself. Now, I'm not suggesting using check sheets here because you don't know how to do your jobs, although using a check sheet like this is a great way to get everybody doing jobs in exactly the same way and a great way to train new members of staff in how you want things done. Be all that as it may, I'm talking about using this as a means to communicate to customers, because you use the sheet with the customer, about your competence, about how you go about doing work. So that when a customer comes to you and says, well, this diagnostic that you do on my computer, what do I get for my 20 quid? What do I get for my 15 pounds, whatever it is that you charge? You say, one moment, out comes the form. This is what we'll do for you, should you decide to take on and get me to do the work for you. And when we've done the work, I'll run through what we've did on the completed form. That sounds like a business that's different. That sounds like a business that's better. That sounds like a business that might cost a little bit more to use. More value add. And again, as I said this morning, qualifications. Many of you have got qualifications, but do they feature on all of your literature? Are they on your website? Are they on your email footer? Are they on your business cards? Are they on your letterheads? Are they on every single piece of communications that you make with a customer? Because if they're not, the only purpose that they've served is for you. They are badges. They are badges of credibility. They are badges of businesses that are better. They are badges of businesses that might cost a bit more to use. Again from this morning, yeah? A PC health check is a PC health check is a PC health check. I go all around the place seeing different companies. Do you do a PC health check? Yes, I do. How much does it cost? It costs this. Do you do any different grades of PC health check? No, I don't. A business that starts to break down different products and service into different levels, forming a price ladder as it's called, will do a number of things, not least the fact that it will increase the value of what tends to get sold, because people will tend to upsell themselves. Different issue. But a business that lays out its products and services in this way is one that's clearly very competent. It's offering me, wow, fantastic choice in what I choose to take. And it's letting me know exactly what I'm going to get for each of the things that I do. This looks like a business that's different, better, and so on. Of course, you have to communicate this stuff. So if you're going to advertise it, it needs to go onto your website. Perhaps it needs to be a sign in your shop. It's something that communicates the fact that you offer these services. Because remember, you've got loads of people out there who haven't yet used you. And you've got to communicate with them. This again is another example from this morning. It's the most under-leveraged area I think that I can see that people are not using this, apart from perhaps PC Medic in Mansfield. It's producing hints and tips guides. This can take the form of emails. It can produce, in this case, it was a printed guide. Yeah. In this case, yes, it was Windows 8. It was the time when this horrible new Windows system came in. Yeah. Dreadful new Windows system came in. And it was a guide. He saw the opportunity to do a favour, to help his customers. Now, there's nothing particularly fancy on this. He found all of this information by just interrogating Windows 8 and looking at all the information that was embedded in the software about how to use it. He just had the gumption to take it out, put it on a sheet of paper, turn it into a leaflet and start handing it to customers with his business and contact details on it. And he had people coming in and asking for it specifically. This is a business that does things differently. This is a business that cares about its customers. This is a business that's different, better, and likely to cost more. More value add. And if you provide all of these kinds of different services, again, this is an old slide from a 2013 presentation, nobody will know that you do any of this unless you communicate it. I had no idea you did an express service. If I did, I would have asked to use it. Yeah? I had no idea you did home visits. If you did, I'd prefer that you'd come out and see me. So these could be icons on websites. They could be leaflets that you put into bags when you've done jobs, put through people's letterboxes. I don't know, all sorts of things. But you have to communicate the fact that if you're doing these kinds of services, people have got to know about them. Okay, price is what's paid. This is a Warren Buffett statement, or saying, I should say. Price is what's paid and value is what's bought. People tend to agree with that? Yeah? If that's the case, if that's true, then what's selling all about? What's selling all about? Explaining the relationship between the two, which you do by, what's the first question you start asking people?
What do you need?
Yeah. What is it that you're looking for? How will you be using it? Yeah? I'm looking for a new computer. How will you be using it? I'm thinking about installing a network in my small business. How will you be using it? How many people will be on the system at any one time? Yeah? Not, well, there's our range of computers. The cheap ones are at this end and the expensive ones are that end. Which one would you like? Yeah? How will you be using it? Because you've got to help the customer make a choice. You're selling a complicated product. The customer may feel and think that they know what they're talking about, and some of your customers will almost certainly, definitely be in that position. But many of them won't, and many of them will be perfectly happy to discuss the pros and cons of different models, which is what you'll be doing when you run through the establishing needs, helping them understand the different options that they've got, explaining the value of each, explaining the price that goes with that, and helping them choose. You can't make the value judgment for what a customer's going to buy. Only they can come to a conclusion as to how much they want to pay for the value they're getting. All you can do is help them, a customer, understand what the various relationships are. And even though a customer may say, blimey, that's expensive, that does not mean that they're not going to pay. It's just a pure statement that says it's more than I thought it was going to be. But now that you've told me, okay, there's my card. Yeah? That's what selling's all about. It's about helping people understand the value. So if that's the case, selling is itself a service. Selling is customer service. And if you do it really, really well, it's an experience that customers will pay for. So it's another value add. Yeah? Another way, another arrow, another weapon in your armory that says, yeah, my prices are slightly more than you might expect, but boy, do you get value for it. Okay, so we've now finished the price is more than a number, which I thought we'd finished before, but for some reason we jumped around. I have no idea why. Let's talk about confidence and tact. So you've explained all this value, yeah? This brilliant mouse, absolutely fantastic, perfect for what you need. What happens when the customer asks about the price? Why would they be asking about the price? Well, quite simply, they're still making up in their mind this value judgment. 25 quid. Is that worth it? I don't know. And that's the first point. They don't yet understand the value. Oh, well, you see, that mouse costs £25. There are a couple of buttons on the side here, features, which you can program to do particular functions for you. Benefits. Yeah? To which the customer may say, ah, Oh, that's quite useful. Yeah, I could imagine using that. I do this, that, and the rest of it, blah, 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 blah. Or the customer might say, no use to me, mate. I don't use those. Do you have a slightly cheaper model? I like the shape and the design, but I really don't need these buttons. Do you have a slightly cheaper model? Yeah? Or you might be doing something to encourage their questioning. Something inadvertent that you might be doing that's making them go, £25 isn't the real price for this. I could get this for less. And there are two major sins in selling, and they're called wowing and cracking. And you might be doing them completely inadvertently, completely without knowing it. And it's all to do with body language, but in particular it's to do with some of the words and phrases that you might be using when people ask you that question. How much is it? So wowing is all about letting on you think your prices are too high. Yeah? You're not fully confident in the fact that that mouse is 25 quid. Yeah, you're kind of saying in your mind, I bloody knew when I made it £25 that someone would say it was too much. Yeah? Or you're doing something that signals that the price is negotiable. Yeah? We'll come on to talk about what that could be in a moment. The telltale signs, divided into three areas, just for the sake of categorizing them, to be honest with you. Everybody tends to have pet phrases that they use when they answer the question, how much is it? The question is do yours fall into any of these kinds of categories? Yeah? So, how much is the mouse? My price is £25. ABC Computer's price for that mouse is £25. Yeah? Our price is £25. That's immediately opening the door. Oh, right, that's what you charge. Wonder what the other guys charge then. So if you're using any words, qualifiers around price that are like that, that's what you're doing. You're seeding that doubt in the customer's mind. Qualifiers. How much is the mouse? Well, the normal price is £25. The usual price is £25. The recommended retail price for that mouse is £25. The catalogue price for that mouse is £25. I'm asking £25. Yeah? How are you? Try again. Yeah? Ask a different price. You're opening the door. And the persuaders, how much is that mouse? You better sit down. Yeah? It's expensive. Hold your horses. Now, clearly that's daft, but sometimes people do go to those extremes. And the only way to answer the question, how much is it, is the price is £25. Because that's the price it is. Yeah? It's completely unambiguous. It's not open to any form of interpretation. It's £25 because that's the price you sell it day in, day out at. Yeah? And if the customer doesn't like it, loads of other customers do. And that's the point. Yeah? Some people will try it on just because it's habit. Professional buyers are trained to push because people crack. Yeah? Because people are embarrassed about their price, because they're not confident that the price was right in the first place. Yeah? But you've said the price is, and you're still getting pushed back. You're still getting the 25 quid. That's an awful lot of money. Sorry, I'm not finished yet. 25 quid, that's an awful lot of money. I don't know that I'm prepared to pay that. How would you respond? Well, there are 5 ways you could go about doing that. Not one of them is not putting your finger up, by the way. And there they are. That's £25. I'm not sure I can pay that. To which your answer is, so? And? Because they haven't actually said what the issue is. They've just made a statement. They may well go on to say, but given everything you've told me about it, and I really do like these buttons on the side here, there's my card I'm going to buy. Yeah? £25, that's incredibly expensive. A mouse, how can it cost that much? Yeah, that's right, it is. But let me explain why. Which you can run through again and go over those features and benefits more. Yeah, it is £25. Yes, it does cost a lot. But let me tell you about all the other customers who have bought this in the last week. Yeah, it is a fair price. Other people think so. You're right, I don't deny it. But here's why. Okay? That's handling price with tact and diplomacy. You're not cracking, you're not wowing. Just because the customer has exclaimed about the price doesn't mean that they're not going to pay. It certainly doesn't mean that your price is wrong. It just means that the customer doesn't yet get it and doesn't yet understand that there might be value in the product that they're looking at that they don't want, which is fine. You can look at a different one. But if they want the value in that product, it's already at a fair price, and the price is £25. Okay. But they push back and they push back. They say, no, I'm not going to pay that. I'm not going to pay that. I can get it down the road for cheaper. I know it. How do you respond to that? I thought I heard somebody say that there. As it was my imagination. Well, you do kind of say it, but you say it in a slightly more polite manner, which goes something like this. You're buying it from me. And I know my prices are fair. If you want to buy it from me, you're going to need to pay my price. If you want to buy it from the competitor, you'll need to go to them. Yeah? In the nicest possible way, you have achieved the same goal. You've stood your ground. You've acted with integrity. You've acted with dignity. You haven't lost your temper. But you very clearly told the customer, there's the line in the sand. Yeah? You have now got to the stage of being unreasonable with me, and I'm not going to take it. Okay? So, that's the issue of handling things with some confidence and tact, and a few little hints and tips about how you might go about doing that, rather than the old two-fingered salute, which never works particularly well. And last, but by no means least, a little showstopper. It's a mindset thing that if you're in this place, then you're going to find everything that I've spoken about before difficult to achieve. And it's this. Are you a price buyer? Is the only thing that matters to you when you go out and shop for anything, for clothes, for shoes, for presents for your girlfriend, kid, husband, wife, whatever, yeah? Is price the only thing that's in your mind? Because if it is, you've got a real problem. And it's this. You don't prize your own worth because you don't prize it in others. Yeah? You don't believe that any of this stuff, value, expertise, the quality of the customer service that you provide, how approachable, how dependable, how predictable you are. You don't believe in this whole issue of you're buying it from me. You're buying it from this small business, no other one, this one here. You don't believe any of that matters. You only believe that price matters. Now, are any of you true price buyers? Yes? Yeah? You're going to find it hard to sell at higher prices. You're going to find it hard because you don't believe in the fundamentals. Yeah? Thanks for being so honest. But if you do believe in these things, if you do believe in the quality of service that you offer, then you stand a chance. All you have to do is three things. You have to know what you're doing, which we've done a bit today. You have to set your prices right and believe that they are absolutely correct and represent fair value for the product, service, and expertise that you provide. Yeah? You have to handle situations with diplomacy and tact. And above all, your one single goal every time you sell to every single customer is to understand that buying it from you is worth the price.
I find personally that it's the younger generation that are more the price buyers.
Really?
Yeah, I find that more.
It's probably because millennials spend time on their phones checking out prices on online stores. It's a known behaviour. They do it online and then they come into the shop because they want to see and touch, which is a good behaviour on one hand, but the problem is
Well,
that...
they come back and say, well, I can buy it cheaper on eBay. So, yeah, but we're not eBay.
Yeah, we're not eBay, exactly. And you have to say that because you're not eBay. And you can't become eBay because if you do become eBay, you'll be out of business, exactly. So you have to make as crystal clear all the time to everybody that you do have all this added value. So with the eBay, you know, with talking to people that are going to buy on eBay, you have to do the things like, well, I've got it here and now. You don't have to wait for it to come in the post. There's none of the risk associated with it being delivered. And that's it. Yeah, you can come and talk to me direct, and the moment you become a customer, you can come and talk to me about anything at any time. Yeah, I
usually very subtly say, and that's where we get rid of all our dodgy stuff as well.
Well, there's that angle as well. Absolutely, there's that angle as well.
Have you got anything that's not that? I think the phrase I use, if we've got anything that's not fit for the sale in the shop, we put it on there as well.
That's eBay for you. Amazon has a bit of a different reputation. Okay, to be fair. But online is a totally different environment. If people want to shop online, there's a large portion of the market that will shop online, and that's the way it is. Okay, your market is not those people. Your market is the one that wants the wraparound. Your market is the one that expects to pay a little bit more because they're buying that security, that peace of mind, the fact that I can come and talk to Phil, because I know Phil. Yeah, I've spoken to him. I've looked in his eyes. I know what he's like. Yeah? Pure and simple. People are buying from you, and it is personal. It is personal. Okay, I'll get off my hobby horse. So selling selling at higher margins than your competitors has been about a number of things. First of all, I hope I've made it clear that business is a game of margin, not volume. Yeah? If you don't sell anything, of course you'll go out of business. But you can sell a shed load of stuff, and if it's at the wrong price, you'll go out of business faster than if you'd sold nothing at all. So business has to be about margin and not volume. Price is a language, and it's not just a number. It speaks loads on value. People know that you pay more for things that are better. There is no shame in not being the cheapest. Yeah? You're better than the guy round the corner doing phone repairs in his shed. Yeah? You're better than people doing computer repairs in all kinds of places. You know, you're better than that. We've spoken a little bit about handling price objections, or I've called it confidence and tact. The 5 key principles. Not worrying. People are allowed to ask about price. Remember, it's your money. You don't part with it easily. I don't, you don't, nobody does. We've only got so much of it. So if we're going to spend it, we want to make sure that we're spending it right. So it's natural that people will ask. And lastly, the showstopper. Yeah, if you are a genuine price buyer, you're going to find this hard because you don't believe in any of the principles. That's it. That's how to sell at margins higher than your competitors. Anyone got any questions?
John, just one short one.
Yeah.
Lots of people got price points, $9.99, you know, $14.99. Yes. And it's sort of difficult when you say, oh, I'll put 10% on that.
True.
And you end up with $15.97 or something. You know, there's no price point in there. So did we lose value in if there's no sort of...
It's an interesting one because I must admit, I've never quite personally understood the whole 99p thing. Because in my head, I treat it as a round number and I round up. And everything I've ever seen on the 99p thing is all based around the fact that people read the first number and forget the second part, which to me doesn't make sense because I read the whole number and I treat it as the larger number. So I don't quite get it. From the point of view of what people's expectations are, I think you're entirely right. Everyone seems to do this 99p thing. So you'd be unusual if you started pricing things at exact prices.
But Asda have started doing that. I noticed it's £10 for a cable,
right?
15. You know, they seem to have dropped the 99p on a lot of the.
Fair enough. So maybe there's movement on it.
Yeah.
See,
maybe there's movement.
I used to think the same as you. Just I see the whole number and think the 99p thing is ridiculous, and I never used to do it in my shop until I noticed my girlfriend telling me how much something cost, and she always told me the first number. And it was because of her, because she does it. She looks at something and says, oh, it's about 14 quid. It's not, it's 15 quid. Yeah. But she says, no, maybe she's only saying that to me. I don't know. But nonetheless, yeah, exactly. But it obviously, if it only works for 10% of people, then I think it's worth.
Yeah. I don't know, is the short answer. I've never been able to understand it personally. I've never seen anything that's described it to me in a way that I think, oh yeah, I get where it's coming from. I think it's something that's just been inherited over the years, and it's become custom and practice for a whole load of reasons that aren't quite understood.
I think it was originally to make sure that the till was open and the sale registered.
Right.
Because they had to give change.
How to give change.
You know,
penny change.
yeah, penny change,
Good idea.
yeah. Although
Interesting.
I did, there used to be the 99p store, I don't know if you remember them.
Yes.
You know, one of the pound shops.
Yes.
And I actually remember the guy actually commenting, they said, well, why, why not just make it a pound? He said, then we wouldn't be the 99p store. He says, and that cost me 4 million last year. I'd like his level of
I was going to
sales.
say, I'd like his volume.
Yeah.
I'd like his volume. So, yeah, sorry, not a clear answer for you.
Well, yeah, it's just, lots of people will say, oh, £9.99 for a lead. That's great. I'll pay that. Get over the £10 mark, and you killed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you do have to take account of that.
Yeah.
But you still have to take account of what's fair value
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Sorry, Phil.
I was just going to ask the question, if anyone's got a high street shop and sells online, is it possible? Or are they mutually exclusive, really?
I would argue they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
If you trade using the same trading name, trading style,
Yeah,
online as in a shop, and your pricing is different, you've got a
Yeah.
real problem on your
Yeah.
hands.
The
'Cause
only,
one,
the only problem that we've got, and they'll probably agree because we sell online and offline,
yep,
is our laptops are all priced up, set up for the customer. We're not a box shifter.
right.
So do we have a box shifting price for those that just want to buy them online? And then a one for the one that wants it set up?
Well, if the
Yeah.
problem you're going to have is that people will come into the store and say, well, I don't want it set up, I want to buy it at the online price in the shop.
Yeah. It's a difficult one.
It's a difficult one. It's a
And then
difficult
you-
one.
then you lose
I
the
would
point of
argue.
upselling then, I suppose, don't you?
Sorry?
You lose the point of upselling then.
You lose the point of
Extra sale.
upselling, you lose the opportunity, you devalue buying in the shop because you're prepared to. You're going to be competing online with that box price for that computer, so you devalue the value of coming into the shop, if you get my meaning. I would argue that they're mutually exclusive. You either do one of two things. If you trade under the same name, you sell entirely different products, online versus off, or you trade under a completely different name with a separate company.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Okay, so the two are completely divorced, and then you can sell the same products at different prices because, as far as the customers are concerned, you're two different businesses.
I've had customers come in to the shop with a computer for repair that they bought from the online business,
Right.
telling me about this fantastic online shop that they got it from. And I'm like, yeah, sounds all right.
It is a good online shop, that one. I know it myself. Yeah, otherwise you suffer with what's called differential pricing problems. You get people turning up on your doorstep. It's cheaper online.
The problem that you've got there is trying to be competitive on, say, Google Shopping, because you won't with your setup price, you won't even register.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is why when you go online, it's a totally different ball game, a totally different arena, and probably best that you either treat it as a completely separate business or you use it for selling particular products, where you've got lots and lots of margin, even though it's a very price-sensitive environment.
True. I've had an online catalogue for quite a long time, so
Yeah.
you can see what we sell. We use it in store
Yep.
to say what we can order in for next day. But I've started having a lot of people saying, look, couldn't I just pay for that online and picked it up? And people are actually now asking.
They
So-
can click and collect.
Click and collect, yeah. I mean, there's no way I can compete on price, not at all. But people are just saying, look, I came to your website, I saw what you got, couldn't I just pay for it?
Online.
Yeah, online.
And they're happy to do it at the price that's advertised.
The price is advertised,
And
yeah,
your
yeah,
online
yeah.
price is the same price as in the
It's in
shop.
store, yeah. But I don't. The online catalogue doesn't actually show me prices because I don't sell online.
Oh, I see.
So well, it does. Sorry, yeah, it does. Yeah, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, if they're happy to do that, then fine. But you've got to make the investment to do it, and it's whether or not you're actually going to get enough business.
Oh no, I don't think I do. People are really saying to me.
I think it's more of a nice to have.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between click and collect when they've already seen it? I suppose it's from the point of view if they've bought it online, they've kind of reserved it. and you know
I'm
when
like
they-
that about it. I've always been against
Yeah.
online selling, but they're just that little bit of click.
I think it's a nice to have, to be honest with you.
Why not just have a reserve online? They
Yeah,
don't
that'd
actually
be an
pay
option.
for it online, just have a reserve
Come into
online.
the shop and get it.
Yeah.
I suppose the issue there is the difference between, anyone can reserve anything they like and never turn up.
Yeah, but you just say it's like,
Yeah.
for the next working day or
3
whatever.
days or
Yeah. But you'll also get shared of the financial implications for selling online as well. With your credit card companies, things like that. You're under different
Yes,
set
and
of rules for
the
selling online.
compliance in and around that. And if you start selling online, you could start becoming subject to distance selling regulations.
It's right. I want to do it.
Well, if anyone returns anything, you have to take it back.
Yeah, no, yeah. I never thought of any of it. No.
So, you know, there's some real implications, some big implications.
It's quite strange to me that you're essentially saying that volume over, you know, on very low margins and relying on volume doesn't work, because, I mean, eBuyer are just down the road from me. They've always told me that that's entirely their model. I mean, they make
It is their
pennies
model.
on things.
I don't deny it.
And for years, by wholesalers, other retailers and everything, I was told that was how the entire industry for IT worked. And
Not
you're
the
saying it isn't,
No,
or it's a stupid
it
way of
isn't.
doing it.
It isn't. Well, it's not a stupid way of doing it. It's right for the businesses that it's right for.
Right.
It's right for the businesses that can do it.
Right.
Does it establish that?
Because they're established volume online sellers.
Right.
You aren't,
Mm.
and you never will be. Okay, you're small business, small expert businesses
They
carrying out
invest
expert.
millions in they invest millions in distribution and in the
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
I mean, you know, their website budget must run to
Oh, it's
to
massive.
millions, like, you know,
It's
yeah.
absolutely enormous.
They expect to sell 10,000 of one thing, we expect to sell at least 5.
Yeah,
They can't
exactly.
sort of-
So the margin recovery requirement is just dramatic. You know, it's unbelievably different.
But most people make
Yeah, we
purchases without any salesman talking to them. They're making that decision. They're not. I mean, eBuyer are not doing anything other than posting it. Really, receiving it.
They're sticking it on
Yeah.
a website and
Yeah,
letting the
and
money
then-
come in.
Yeah, and then just posted it. So yeah. So
And they're
very
relying
low
on-
overheads.
And they're relying on search engine optimization, so that when you type in a certain
Yeah.
code, that up it comes. That's
We've
their
been-
business
We've
model.
been to the headquarters and it's quite impressive.
I can imagine.
Yeah, the way they've got the stuff going down the lines and getting picked and electronic.
Oh, it'll be a slick operation
Yeah,
because it has to be incredibly low cost to operate.
it is. It's a factory.
Yeah.
Actually.
But you're an entirely different business. You're an entirely different scale of business, and you're offering an entirely different service. Because if you were going to be like an eBuyer, well, then everything you do in and around repairs, virus cleaning, you know, computer building, installations, all of that, you wouldn't do because they don't do that. Yeah? They'd sell kit, boxes. That's it.
The key thing is that people don't buy from eBuyer and then take it back there to have it fixed. If they buy it from there, they come to someone like us to fix it because they don't get that service.
And you can do that, and you can benefit from it. So in some ways, there's a sort of a symbiosis there. Okay. Oh, one more.
In terms of increasing margin or increasing profit anyway,
Yes.
what about selling more in terms of bundles of products?
Yes.
I've seen quite a lot of stuff in terms of selling online whereby people will buy, let's just say for instance, I don't know, a bottle of something, of vitamins or whatever.
Yeah.
The next upsell is for 3 bottles of the same thing.
Yeah.
And the one after that, the upsell after that, is 10 bottles.
Yep.
And apparently the sales in terms of all the upsells are incredibly successful. And so when somebody's considering, let's say, I don't know, 1 ink cartridge, when you offer 3 and then 10, then it's almost like a 50-50 chance of getting the 3, and then about 5% of getting the 10.
The 10.
So I'm thinking of relating it into shops and just
Yeah,
all
I would
these
say that's a perfectly
bricks
good
and mortar
approach.
shop whereby when people are buying from the counter,
Yeah.
then they get offered an
Effectively a volume discount.
Is that something that?
Yeah, I would say that's a perfectly respectable idea.
Well, that worked very well for us. We sell quite a lot of inks, so on compatible inks, we have an offer on which is buy 4 get 1 free,
Okay.
and we hardly sell single ink cartridges now.
Yeah.
Because people come in and just say, well, I'll take a full set and I'll have 3 black or I'll have 5 blacks. And it costs us very little. We're actually doing 1 sale rather than having them come back in
Exactly.
over a period of a week and 1 cartridge.
So in some
at a
respects,
time.
it's more
Yeah.
cost effective for you
Yeah,
to do it that
yeah.
way.
It
You
worked
sell
really
greater
well
volume.
for us.
Yeah, you're selling greater volume every time.
But they're talking about going further than that and then offering 10-pack or
10
25-pack.
pack, yeah.
or something.
Well, why not? It's a case of demand. You know, you could do them in 1,000 packs. You may not sell very many. That's my point. Is you have to find the point where it starts to fall off.
The only
Yeah, that's a
thing-
perfectly good idea. Perfectly good idea. But bundling products again is another great idea.
So
So
people like this, buy 4 get 1 free. It's amazing.
There's not much in our industry other than ink that's consumables like that. Is there?
No, I agree. But
where you've got the margin to be able to play with like that.
yeah.
You've
Bun-
got other products though, haven't you? I mean, even down to memory chips. 4 gig, like 240 gigs, often that will work.
But typically you've got to do it with products where you've got plenty of margin so that you can play the game of offsetting one against the other. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm still around. Thank you. I'm still around. I'll be downstairs. If anyone has any other questions, please come and have a chat. Happy to talk. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.